Well, the first item up is visitors' comments. Don't. Okay, got it. We have a motion to go out of executive session. Okay.
Oh, sorry. Move that we reconvene in committee of the whole.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye?
What's the motion?
Just to reconvene.
Yes.
And then okay.
All right, so do we need to put that vote on the record?
No, we got to, what vote?
Reconvene into open session? Do we need to start using our system yet?
We do for other
Yeah.
stuff.
I would
Okay.
prefer that we do it for this, I mean, just because, so,
right, there we go.
everybody pop
Okay.
them up.
The next item up is public
Vote,
comments.
vote,
Are there any
Kevin.
members of the public who want to speak or make any comments? I hear none. The next item up is the presentation of mission critical action, which is right on the spot, Cindy. Ms. Ambrose, excuse me.
I'm gonna ask my team if the learning services team, if they come on up, later who they are. Michelle, Joe, I'll be back there.
So Cindy, before you start, is anything in here different from what I would have pulled off the computer today?
I don't think so.
No, and I will go ahead and kick off. Board members should have at your places a yellow folder that has the same material that is currently in Board Docs.
Is it different than what we have?
What you sent Thursday, there were some revisions. They're not significant, but there were wordsmithing revisions made since Thursday.
Are there any revisions to this?
No. Yes.
And what about this one? Because I printed it and put it in my notebook. I want to make sure I've got the most accurate copy.
The only thing that's different about that one is that when I met with you, we had section such and such.
And you removed the word section?
We removed the word section. Has everyone found your yellow folder?
I know. You can put it up there.
First of all, I'd like to recognize many of the people in the room who worked on bringing this work to you today. So if you were part of the group that met at Bridgeview and has worked on this, would you please stand? There are a lot of people. Kathy, Jennifer, Rich, Robin, a lot of people. And these folks, there were 35 or 40 different people who met multiple days to get us to this point. We know that about half of the children in Charleston County schools are doing extremely well, and about half of the children are not thriving in our system. Children of color and poverty are overrepresented in the half that are not doing as well as we would like for them to do in our school system. So we know that every action that every board has taken before we came has been taken with the best interest of kids at heart and the best decision that people could make at that time. So if we talk about changing something, we don't mean it to be critical to those who put it in place. We are simply saying time moves on and circumstances change. And sometimes an action you take to solve one problem creates a different problem. The other thing we'd like to say is just to mention that old proverb that you can't walk 10 miles into the forest and walk out in 5. So we have some problems that it will take the community and parents and educators all working together to solve. So we're not suggesting that if we take the mission critical actions that we're recommending, that things will change overnight. But we think that these actions are important first steps. Despite the efforts of talented and hardworking educators across our system, we are not reaching some of the children who most depend on public schools to get things right for them. This is a systems problem. It's not an employee problem. And so our big recommendations are represented on the blue sheets that you have. And we're asking you to vote today on the blue sheet, and then we can work over the next 2 weeks to make refinements that you might like to make, and then vote on it, take final action on it at your February 25th meeting. So we're going to start by talking about these mission critical actions. And before we do that, the pieces of paper behind it just remind everyone how we got here. So the first handout that's behind the mission critical actions is the summary from the district strategic plan. You approved this plan, this strategic plan, that I didn't bring copies for everyone today, just for Ms. Green, because she wasn't here at the time. But the board approved the strategic plan about 13 months ago, in December of 2017. That same night, you approved the Clemson diversity study to move forward. So we had the strategic plan in place, then we had the Clemson diversity study, which was completed. The results came back to you last fall. We also knew that we were going through a process to try to get our district accredited. So last fall, we had the report from the accreditation agency. And their report isn't just a report, it is a directive. It's not recommendations, it's requirements, things that we have to do if we wish to maintain our accreditation. And because we knew that the recommendations coming out of these two reports were going to tell us we had to make some deep, significant changes, we put together a shared future group that delivered their report to you at the last meeting. So today, the staff who took your goals that you developed in November, that's this sheet, taken from the strategic plan and the reports that you had received. They also look like this. This is a shortened version of them. This is just the shorthand version. We just don't want people to be confused by version control here. And we summarized all these in a long sheet that looks like this. So this long sheet tells you, it starts with the first column, the strategic plan from 2017. Matching to that are the recommendations related to that particular goal. There are 7 goals in that strategic plan. The recommendations related to that came out of the Clemson study, the recommendations that came out of the advanced ed accreditation requirements, and the shared future scenario observations and possible pathways. We put with that the board approved goals, and then went through a process where we also included all of the listening that we've done from teachers, from parents, from students, from community members over the past 12 months, and develop these mission critical actions. So I'm going to move back to the blue page now. I just wanted to tell you all of that work was done in preparation to get us to what we think are bold actions that have to be taken over the next few months. I'm going to start with number one. Number one, develop a comprehensive plan for the North Charleston schools to ensure that all students have high-quality K-12, pre-K-12, without leaving the North Charleston area. And then you see, we talk about working with community representatives over the next 5 months to bring recommendations to you by June that would help us know how in North Charleston to recruit and employ highly successful principals and teachers and give them more autonomy than they currently have to transform their schools. Also then, with the autonomy comes accountability, so there would be discussions about what that accountability might look like. Establish high-quality preschool programs and centers to ensure that more of our children start school with a good educational foundation. Seek out and implement educational models with a proven track record of success with students who are similar, have similar challenges to those who live in North Charleston. The same will hold true for the other areas we're talking about. Providing training for teachers, involving community groups and businesses as partners. There's a trip to Spartanburg this Wednesday that starts to look at how a group in Spartanburg has brought together the business community, local government, community volunteers, and educators around supporting some of the high poverty areas in Spartanburg. Give students who commit to hard work and have met the eligibility requirements the promise of needed scholarships to attend college. One of the ways I would word this is make sure that every child who's ready to go to college gets a first year of college tuition free. We've talked to Trident Tech, we talked to Dr. Thornley about this, and we think that this is doable as part of the North Charleston project. Make every classroom a place where students can learn free from disruptive behavior. That means we would have to put additional supports in place for those children who are not ready to attend to the kinds of learning that we're providing in classrooms. Change attendance lines as needed in order to give all schools the best chance for success. Increase the quality and rigor of our middle schools, especially considering creating a school like an early college middle school. There are other middle school models that might be provided. So those are the kinds of things that we would ask two leaders from North Charleston to do, putting together a community group, working on these specific actions that our board would vote on in the final form on February 25th. In the packet, we included a story of how that could happen, and in that story, we talk about having each of the North Charleston board members and each city council member who lives in the North Charleston boundaries to nominate 2 or 3 people to serve, to be selected to serve on this committee, and then we would engage facilitators to work with that community group in March, April, May, and in June bring recommendations forward. The next mission critical action is a very similar sort of action. We broke up into smaller groups, and these action items were written by different groups, but if there's a bullet in one attendance area's list that needs to be moved to another, there's not a problem with that at all. The second mission critical action involves the peninsula, doing the same thing for the peninsula, but if you look at those bullets, it takes into consideration some of the specific challenges on the peninsula. The second bullet talks about feasibly merging middle schools or programs to provide all students with more electives and opportunities. There are 6 different public middle schools on the peninsula with an average enrollment of 150 some kids. So it's very difficult to provide a broad curriculum in 6 different middle schools to 150 kids split up over 3 grades. Create high school options on the peninsula that will provide the appropriate level of rigor for all students living in D20. There's been some interest in moving the International Baccalaureate program, for example, right on up through grades 9 through 12. So I'm not going to read all of these bullets for all of these areas, but I do want to look at the mission critical steps. Third mission critical step has to do with a comprehensive plan for West Ashley. There's a lot of growth occurring in West Ashley, and we'll be opening the new Center for Advanced Studies, the Career and Technology Center there, plus the opportunity to build a new middle school. There's much that can be done. One of the things I'll highlight is that Stone Oak Park is the elementary school opening the new building there in August, and we would like to create a unique focus for that school so that it has a way to attract students from that neighborhood back into that school. A lot of the neighborhood's students who are zoned for that school don't currently attend it. Fourth is to clarify the purpose of all magnet, partial magnet, and choice schools and make needed changes to align with the district's stated commitment to giving parents and students a preference of where they'd like their children to go, but also the district's mission and your values around access, opportunity, and outcomes. Number 5 is ensuring that our district has the capacity to successfully carry out these mission critical actions. So that means additional training for teachers who work in settings where children come to school with lots of challenges. It means that we have to have a clearer accountability system. We're working to develop our own accountability system, but it still needs more simplification, and we need to share it with Berkeley and Dorchester counties so that our local parents and employers can talk with one another. It also would mean that we have to have some help. We're going to have some consultants and facilitators to help work these community groups. It's a lot of work. And the people who are leading these groups need to be able to not worry about the other work they have and not worry about offending someone. We have to really be able to put all of the options and the challenges on the table. Mission critical item 6, develop plans for our rural areas and the other constituent districts that aren't mentioned here, and some of those bullets are outlined for you. And then number 7 has to do with the legislative agenda. There may be more items that you want to add to that legislative agenda. And then we indicate that the attached narratives were written by different team members to give an idea of how this might work. They're not meant to be set in stone at all. And the final page gives you a sample timeline. So after we receive the board's feedback today, we're going to start this work in earnest. We'll wait until after you've voted on the final version in February, but as one board member pointed out the other day, we need a war room right now with charts on the wall and these dates, or else we're not going to hit the June deadline. And because we talk about changing magnet of choice every year, but we don't get it done in time to hit the deadline of notifying parents, we haven't made some of the changes that we could make. And the final thing I want to say is when we talk about making changes to programs, we don't wish to take away from anyone the high quality opportunities their children already have. It would not be our intent to take anything away from anybody. It is our intent to expand the opportunities so that more children and more diverse children can access them. So that's our introductory, more than an introduction, to this whole mission critical piece. And we haven't prepared any further presentation. We wanted to leave the time for board member discussion and responses from those who've actually worked on.
What questions the board members have?
This is minor, but I think it would help to set this in stone. Can we alter the motion to say brought to the board at the June 24th, 2019 board meeting? Go ahead and schedule that board meeting so it doesn't get lost in translation. That is the 4th Monday.
Great.
You said that is our board meeting day?
Yeah, I pulled up the June calendar. That's the 4th Monday, so we can go ahead and put the actual date on there.
Well, maybe let's go file in the board meeting that day.
What did you say the 4th Monday was?
I thought it was the 24th of June.
It is, I just didn't hear you say.
Okay, yeah.
What other
I
questions?
have questions too.
Go ahead.
So if it goes to the June board meeting, would it also need to go to the council, that we have a chance to discuss any final changes, recommendations? We won't be able to do that Monday night, I think, on the floor, in detailed discussion. So maybe they go to both in June, the committee of the whole and the regular board meeting in June, that we have time to discuss it, the final plan.
That's a really great question, Reverend Collins. What we plan to do is once the board approves the final version of this on the 25th, is to lay out what has to happen in March and April and May and discuss it at every single committee, the whole meeting. So that what you'll be hearing primarily from the SEC group is the progress that we're making on these mission critical actions.
So my question, I do have about 3 questions. When you talk about the North Charleston plan, you have the second to the last bullet. It says change the attendance lines as needed in order to give all schools the best chance of success. So my question is, when I consider North Charleston traditional schools, there are hardly any white children in the schools in North Charleston, the elementary schools and middle schools, but mostly minority students in those schools, not Caucasian students, 97%. So how will changing the attendance lines breed any success in the classroom?
So I don't think it was our intent to come back with solutions. We were simply trying to imagine everything that might need to happen. It might be that when you start looking at the attendance lines, for example, you might decide to have, right now you have one school that's a K through 8 school. You might decide to run a K through 5 school and open up more seats in that school and move the middle school students to a different middle school setting, and that would require a change in attendance lines.
But you have to create a new middle school somewhere, or move the middle school. That would call for attendance, but
Or you might consider changing attendance lines to balance out enrollment, because you have some schools that have an
population.
overabundance of students and some schools where the capacity is too low. So
All right.
that's what we had.
Mr. Hollins,
Wait, I'm off on nothing. No, if you have the first bullet said recruit and employ, how that's successful principals and teachers. So aren't we already doing that? To the best of our ability, we're hiring the best and the brightest and the most qualified already? Do you mean a different approach, a different plan, or what do you really have in mind?
If we look at, so Mr. Kennedy
Then I have
and
one more thought after this, I'll be done.
Mr. Kennedy and his staff did some comparisons on what he called tapes. And he took four high-performing schools in Charleston County and 4 of the lowest performing schools. And he compared them on a number of factors. Among the factors that differentiated high-performing from low-performing schools was the fact that teachers in high-performing schools had several more years of experience than teachers in the lower-performing schools. So one of the things we might want to try to do is to provide differentiated salary schedules or different working conditions or extended day and year opportunities for teachers who are currently working in other places who have a track record of creating tremendous growth, to ask them to move to North Charleston, move not their physical address, but change schools and work in North Charleston, or attracting teachers from other areas outside this district. So that it's the same strategy that Mr. Brigman and the HR team used with recruiting math teachers.
So if a teacher has let's say a school is successful, West Actually Middle says it's successful, for example. Well, say one is successful, Butte successful. So if we hire a new teacher with no experience and place her in that school, because she has very little experience just starting out, will that school or that class become unsuccessful because a new teacher came there? Will it pull down the scores, or will it maintain the same current flow of being successful, regardless of the teacher, that one of the teachers that came in?
So we didn't mean to suggest anything like that. I can only tell you from my own teaching experience, I hope that my first year was a year where children didn't lose out because I was there. But I can tell you, by the time I taught in an inner city school that served children who had been expelled from public schools, I was awfully glad I wasn't a first-year teacher. I think there are, the longer one teaches, the greater the repertoire of skills.
Absolutely.
But that doesn't, it's a matter of thinking of all the possible variables that we could pull into play to give children who most depend on our schools the best chance of success. But we did not mean to imply anything.
Well, I understand. I'm really saying that if the school's successful, it's going to be successful regardless. Is what really the premise I'm getting at. I think it's a matter of it doesn't matter who goes where, but I think if it has a culture of being successful, it'll maintain it. Even if you change 10 teachers, it's still going to be successful, I believe.
Mr. Hollins,
I won't take up much of your time. Dr. Posowicz, you just said that this can be tweaked, right? We can make suggestions and, okay. I won't go into the attendance thing. Chris asked a question, I think. You expanded on that quite well. I will say this though, Friday, you talk about your Share Future project and diversity and kind of balancing things out or trying to. Friday, the Benedict College Jazz Ensemble came down from Columbia and performed at Military Magnet, but their actual engagement was at West Ashley. And at West Ashley, the full student body came out and watched the performance, but that wasn't the main scope of it. Afterwards, Mr. Runyon, the principal, got into a dialogue with the band director and staffed, and basically what he was saying was, he knows he has a diverse population in the school. He's trying to find a way to partner with those HBCUs like Benedict and State and employment hiring in the future, because he has a very diverse population. He's trying to make sure he fulfills the needs of the student. So saying in that, we can kind of get the same thing going in North Charleston with that kind of attitude. I think we can find ourselves, making some significant changes.
Thank you.
Welcome.
All right, what other comments, questions people have? Hearing none. The
We need
next
a
item
motion.
up. What's that? Do we have a motion to? Yes. Oh, I apologize.
That's all right.
Thank
You're doing
you.
a very good job. You can continue.
I hand it back over to Ms. Shepherd.
Madam
Yes.
Chair, I would like to make a motion to approve the mission critical actions for further development with the understanding that the community representatives will have an opportunity for input into recommendations that will be brought to the board by June 24th, 2019.
Second.
These are community representatives.
It's everything on this piece of
It's
paper.
on the paper.
We have a motion and a second, so can we pop up the voting block?
Yep, she's doing that.
I was just gonna comment while we're voting, it's obvious that y'all spend a ton of time on all of this and pulling everything together that shows all the different, how it all fits together with all these different studies, so thank you for all that time y'all spent on this. Great.
Yeah, great.
Oh, okay. Strategic education committee presentation, please.
Well, that's just-
And learning services.
That's just
Wait, Julie's saying somebody has voted that.
Reverend Collins.
Yeah, I'm voting man.
Not supposed to, I didn't know Erica Taylor could cut a rug like that. I have to show you the video.
She might be the only one.
So I do kind of have a question. Is this and D basically the same thing? Because the first thing that you pop up under the link for the information-only item says amend the strategic plan. But that's not what the item is.
We're not there yet.
We're on B.
And
B
the
is
first
actually-
thing you pull up when you click on the link from B says amend the strategic plan. That's my question.
So actually where it says Strategic Education Committee presentation, that's just the slide deck that you have in your, and it goes along with
Everything.
everything. So the next item's actually calendar.
So
So-
go past all of this and
So
we'll
we
come
want
back
to
to
go to
this
the
under
calendar
D.
part. And I'm going to ask this team here to stay at the table because they work most closely with our school leaders. And if you have questions, they can help answer it. But I'm going to ask Emily Woody and Mia Pace if they've come forward. There's one chair there. If we need to get another chair, I'm sure we can pull another one.
Is one of these calendars preferred over the other?
So we're skipping B.
Yeah, B is just the PowerPoint presentation for everything for SEC.
Right, so we're skipping B and now
Yes,
we are
ma'am.
on C.
We're on calendar.
Okay.
And I'm going to turn it over to Mia and Emily.
So your answer is no. There's
No.
not a preferred. There's
Okay.
not. This was pared down from 4 to 2.
Uh-huh.
This is a culmination of lots of input from all the different cabinets. This gives, the comparison chart shows what the differences are there. It's going to be decided, it's going to be whether people decide they want a midweek start. Do they want a little bit longer at the winter break? Do they want an option to have the weather makeup days not all fit where they have been previously? So that's really the differences. But for us, there's no preference. We're not getting, I think we're going to see in the results different.
So do you have
Gonna see
a
what-
recommendation?
Okay.
The recommendation is to move days forward for the public input at this point.
Okay.
So I move to approve the two drafts posted for public review.
Thank you.
So, when will this come back to the board? I thought we had a policy that we approved the calendar in February, so if we're putting it out, we're not meeting that policy. When are we bringing, when is the board going to be asked to vote on the final calendar, so the next year can get planned.
Typically, we have it out for vote for 10 days to 2 weeks, so we could still do that and bring it to you at the board meeting at the end of the month.
All right.
Do you have a question?
We're done.
No,
The next item up is,
my parent asked you a question, but I see you got to correct it.
Okay.
you waiting on somebody? We're waiting on 2 to vote.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Mr. Hall.
You good? All right.
Thank you. Thank you for all the work. I know you've got lots of input from teachers. Thank you for all you've done. So the next item is D, amend the strategic plan.
I will start off
Okay.
by saying, this is very confusing. We have our district strategic plan, which I referenced a little bit ago, and then we have a different strategic plan that we have to submit to the state under state regulations. So this doesn't have anything to do with our own strategic plan. Hopefully, the next cycle through, we'll get these 2 things lined up. But this has to do with the fact that right now, there's a state regulation that says a student has to be enrolled for a minimum of 1 semester immediately preceding his or her graduation in order to get a diploma from a school. So it's a strange state regulation, and when we contacted the state to let them know that we need a waiver from it, they told us to just ask you if you would grant a waiver. And so we worded it that we would like a high school to be able to permit a student who meets the requirements for a South Carolina diploma and attends at least 1 semester in a CCSD high school and who's enrolled in that school in the semester immediately before they graduate to be able to graduate from that school and get a diploma.
I move to amend the.
Second.
Question. Sure.
Yes.
I want to make sure I understand, when I read it at home, that's basically what I came up with also. So I just really had thoughts. If a student enrolled in the final semester, says it's a senior, and what if they enrolled in the last 5 weeks of school, or last 4 weeks of school? Would that be considered a semester, or does it define a full semester? What are we speaking about? A full semester, or in that, or within a semester?
It means that you have to have attended a high school 1 full semester sometime between your freshman and senior year. And then if you have been at Daniel Jenkins, for example, and you were released to come back in April to your home high school, you could go ahead and get a diploma from your home high school.
So basically, if a student was at Jenkins most of their career, but they came back to Stall last 5 weeks or 6 weeks, or it does have to be a full semester?
Doesn't have to be. Right now, the state requires that it's the full semester, but we're saying, as long as you've spent 1 full semester, in your example at Stall High School, and you come back and enroll there sometime during the final semester, you could get a diploma from Stall High School. Otherwise, where would you get your diploma from?
Right.
And
My concern is I don't want to see a student only there 2 weeks in that semester, and so that student graduates from Stall and they spend all the time somewhere else. That's what I don't want to see that happen. I don't mind a student who's been at another school and transferred or because they kind of things and came back at the beginning of the semester, but that's in the last 2 weeks. Hey, we can put you at 1 though.
I could give you a real life scenario. A student's in a tragic car accident. They already have the units to graduate,
Yes.
but before the senior year even starts, they already have the credits, but they're in a bad accident. They come back the second semester, they were not enrolled first semester. The way this is currently written, we couldn't issue them a diploma, and we don't think that's fair to the student. And I was at a state meeting last week and had conversations with legal representation from the state, and they agree that this is a problem with the statute.
Okay.
Cindy, did you have a question?
So I think that this is a statute that nobody knew existed And I guess what went through my mind is we do have a military base. Are we saying that if children are transferred into our district the second semester of their last year of school, the state of South Carolina does not allow them to get a diploma from a South Carolina school?
Well, it's a state regulation, and the regulation goes on to say unless there's a case of a bona fide change of address. So
Got it,
that-
got it.
So that is in there,
Would
okay.
cover that.
Okay.
Any other questions?
This is just a waiver for now, or how long will the waiver be in effect?
It,
Forever.
Ever, never?
every single, we're amending our strategic plan that we submit to the state. So every single time we submit a new strategic plan to the state, we would need to ask for a waiver.
Thank you.
Are we ready to vote?
Yeah. Did you vote? She just, it came up.
Maybe it's because I've got the, oh, okay, I had the presentation.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is the online update. We're really excited about what we've got planned. We wanted to share with you the launch of the virtual school and some of the distance learning work we're doing. And so we actually have teachers and students with us. So I'm going to ask LaShawna Rivers and her team and whoever you plan to bring up with you, LaShawna. We can pull up. They can appear. I don't know if you've had the chance to meet LaShawna Rivers before, but she joined Charleston County School District last summer from one of the Dorchester districts where she was in charge of curriculum instruction. And she came on board to help us launch our very first virtual school program, and we're really excited about the work she's doing. And just, you know, tell a little bit about your staff that you have at the virtual school.
We do have
I'll turn it over to you.
We do have a couple other students that are going to join us, but they're right outside, so they'll be in shortly. Well, hello to everyone. I'm LaShawna Rivers, and as Ms. Ambrose stated, that I currently serve as the online learning coordinator, and I work very closely with my partner who's not here today. Her name is Celeste Bearden. She's our online learning counselor. We work specifically with 4 programs that fall underneath our umbrella, and we just wanted to come before you today to give you a little bit of information about each one of them, and allow the students and especially our current distance learning teacher, Dr. Jason Brazzini, to give you a little bit of information about his experience in teaching in our distance learning program. So the first slide just gives you the 4 programs that really fall underneath our umbrella. The first is distance learning. The second is our online learning program. The third that you'll see there is virtual SC. And then the 4th program that you'll see is the CCSD virtual franchise. Our first program, the distance learning, was born
We're going to grab some chairs. We want to make sure you hear from the principals too.
The first is our distance learning program, and this was actually born prior to my hire. This was a program that was written into our current Title IV grant, and it was specifically designed to support 2 of our rural Title I schools, which is St. John's High School and Baptist Hill Middle High School, and we have students representing those schools here with us today. This current program has one course that's being live streamed to St. John and Baptist Hill, and it's currently being taught by Dr. Jason Brazzini at Wando High School. And it's a current course that's being taught through the program right now is AP Human Geography. The second program is our online learning program. Currently, we utilize Edgenuity as the curriculum that the students live in as they're participating in this online program. It's available at all of our high schools. The difference between the distance and online is that most of the students in our online program work independently. Most of them may work in a lab format. We have some homebound students that participate. The distance allows the students to actually have that face-to-face contact with Dr. Brazzini on a daily basis. Our third program that falls under our umbrella is Virtual SC, and that's just a free state-sponsored online program for kids in 7 through 12. And we work this semester to successfully launch our franchise partnership with Virtual SC. So we now have the CCSD virtual franchise, which allows us the opportunity to hire from within using our certified teachers within the district, and it also gives us some flexibility with enrollment completion dates. We were able to successfully launch second semester 5 different courses, and these are the courses that we currently offer. Integrated business apps, and that came out of a request from School of the Arts, Algebra 2 credit recovery, government and econ, medical terminology, and English 4. And so basically what we did, we encouraged the schools to allow students to enroll in Virtual SC first, and those students that then appear on a wait list report to us that they're on a wait list and they need the identified course, and we enroll them through CCSD with our teachers of record. Now before me I have students representing each of the departments, but first I'd like to have Dr. Jason Brazzini, who's currently serving as our distance learning instructor, share a little bit about his experience.
Thank you, Ms. Rivers. I want to thank everyone for allowing us to come today and speak. To give a little bit about my background, this is my 11th year as a teacher at Wando High School. And I really, when I was approached this summer about this opportunity, it's something really near and dear to my heart. I believe in equity, and I feel that we really need to kind of spread the wealth as far as Charleston County goes. For myself, how I teach this class, these two aren't my virtual students. These two are my students. They're no different than any other student that I teach at Wando, and they're no different than any other student that I'll ever teach at Wando. I teach their class the same exact way that I teach my class at Wando High School in our actual building. My rigor, it's same exact. One thing I can tell everyone that'll really paint a vivid picture on what this program has done is these students take all the same assessments, quizzes, tests, everything that my Wando students take. Our first test of the year, the difference between my virtual students at Baptist Hill and St. John's, the average test score was a difference of 15. So my Wando students had outscored them by 15 points. But I knew that we were going to have a little bit of a learning curve. Now, I'm not juking the stats. 2 weeks ago, we took our latest test. Their test average was 2 points lower than my Wando High School students. So they can do it. I promise you they can do it. Anyone in this district can. The difference is you have to have someone who really grabs a hold of that class, they make it their own, and they make sure that these kids are getting the best education possible. But they've impressed me to no end. Brianna every single day says something that makes me laugh, makes me smile, and makes me say, huh, that's a really good question. Keena over here, I think our latest email chain, Keena's at 108. Keena's not afraid to ask questions, which is what we need. If she doesn't understand something, she asks it. And she wants to make sure that she actually has things clear and that she understands and doesn't just memorize information. So I can talk for days about these kids. I don't want to talk for 5 hours, but that was kind of a short spiel and how much I believe in this program.
Next, I'd like to have Breon Dent share. He's a student at Baptist Hill, and he participates in the distance learning program.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Dr. Polspeed, cabinet members, CCSD parents, community members, and attending audience. My name is Breon Dent, and I'm a 9th grade freshman attending Baptist Hill, and I would like to give you a brief overview of my experience in the distance learning AP Human Geography course. Our class is personalized to our way of learning because Dr. Brazzini gives us all our work under a single deadline, meaning he gives us the raw meat and it's our job to cook it to our preference. During our recent trip to sit in with one of his classes, I noticed that his face-to-face teaching is similar to our virtual teaching. The digital class also gives me the ability to sign in excuse me. The virtual class also gives me the ability to sign in anywhere despite me being in or out of school. This is important, and this prevents me from missing instructional time, which is important being that taking a college course requires your undivided attention. Not to mention, this class teaches us a variety of skills such as time management, which is a key attribute to take with you to college, and we have also learned how to properly manage a schedule with a given due date. This gives us the ability to maintain a schedule in order to complete assignments for this AP course and other courses we have. The program provides schools like ours with a small population and limited funding access to courses the size of Wando are able to offer. This class at first seemed tough, but Dr. Rossini's teaching and explaining helped me get through. I credit him for the success of this program. Overall, this has been a positive experience for me and my classmates, and we respectfully request that this program be continued and expanded so that more students of our nature could have more offerings at our school. I welcome the opportunity to be a part of any other project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, I'd like to have Swarkina Foggy. She's here from St. John High School, and she's also in the distance learning program.
Good evening, everyone. I am a 9th grader that goes to St. John's, and taking AP has been challenging for me, but I'm still holding on. I do think that this class can help a lot of students, especially with the study skills that they need to go to college. Most kids that go into St. John's or into high school don't have the study skills that they need, which is why I'm having a challenge right now. But I think that taking AP will actually push students into studying the way how they need it for college, so that when they get to college, they wouldn't have to drop out or they wouldn't have to restart it over. I think that this class has changed me mentally and has helped me be able to stay consistent with my work. Taking the reading, I'm sorry, I'm nervous. But like when I'm doing the book on my own, I never really had the chance and opportunity to do it growing up because I always had somebody that would help me. But now when I'm on my own and I'm trying to learn the equipment by myself, it is challenging. And I believe that the reason why I didn't give up is because I want to pass this class with a 90 or above, and I am not going to quit until I pass this class. Most of the students that was in this class have dropped out, and I'm sitting here like, I'm not going to drop out. I'm going to keep on going, keep on pushing, because the main thing that this class has brought me was stress, but I'm trying to just, like, that's what comes with hard work. Hard work comes with stress and all of that. So I believe that this class can help students better themselves mentally and physically when it comes down to learning the material and being able to study for college of what they need. And if you have any further questions, just ask me. Thank you.
Thank you, Swarkina.
So may I ask a question? First off, 9th graders taking AP? I don't even think we were allowed to take AP in the 9th grade when we were in school. Seriously, that's impressive. But for those of us who are a tad bit older than y'all, so you have regular classes that are taught by live teachers in the school.
That's right.
Do you see any challenges with this as opposed to those, or does this feel like just another regular class with a live teacher who just happens to be on the TV screen, or are there challenges different?
I feel the challenge is different because before you usually had somebody to be there, hand feed you, but now when you actually get that information on your own, I feel like I comprehend it better, and me being able to learn on my personal standards, rather than sitting in a class with a bunch of people and having one way of learning. I feel this class has really benefited in discovering my study habits.
Do you guys think that you would like more classes than just AP Human Geography taught this way if it meant you could have more AP classes in your school?
Yes.
I mean, you would do, okay. Thank you.
I'd like to add something if I may. Miss Robin Jones was very instrumental in making sure that she worked with the IT department, and this is really cutting edge technology. Sometimes it's referred to as telepresence technology. When that teacher's moving, the camera will move to the speaker, and if the student speaks and they have the camera in their classroom, it will also move. But we see this as a really strong pathway towards our access and equity agenda.
Absolutely. So one last question for you. Is this one of your courses you teach? So if a teacher has 5 classes they teach, you happen to teach 4 in front of students and 1 with your groups here?
Good question. Yeah, I teach this as an early bird that we call it at Wando. So our school starts at 8:30, but with them I actually start at 7:30. But it is on my teaching load.
I did want to have Taekwon Cooper, who's here from Stall High School, to share in his experience. He's one student that takes advantage of Edgenuity in our online learning program.
How you doing, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Taekwon Cooper. I'm a senior at RB Stall High School. I grew up in North Charleston community. I'm currently taking online classes. I'm currently taking online courses through Edgenuity. Over the past 2 years, a couple of incidents led me to alternative placement for me. As a result, I fell behind in school. Upon release from the alternative placement, I was placed back into public school. I was scheduled in online classes to catch up. Online classes have allowed me to work at my own pace and to catch up on my own work. Online learning requires skills such as patience, integrity, and focus. Without the opportunity to take these online courses, I absolutely would not have finished high school.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to applaud for them.
Yeah.
They are so
So the online courses using Edgenuity.
Right.
Is it like a student who failed the course and can go back online and retake that course? And the highest grade they can make is like a 70 or a C?
They're offered, you can earn initial credit as well as credit recovery through our online learning program, and there is no minimum grade requirement for an initial credit course.
So the human geography, what you said?
AP Human Geography is taught through distance learning.
He's on Edgenuity.
All right, so is there a minimum, so if you make a C or passing grade, then you get the credit, right?
For initial, yes.
So one last thing, is it like you take an exam, maybe read some of the chapters, and take an exam at the end of the chapter maybe, but if you don't do so well, so you on that exam, you get to back up and retake it, or how does it work?
Right, I can actually comment on that. I actually took 2 initial credits for Edgenuity, one this year for English 1 and one last year for Earth Science. And the way the program works is that you will first start off with your lessons, and after taking your lesson, at the end of it, you will take a quiz. If you fail that quiz, they're going to want you to restart that lesson and go back through to make sure that you have an understanding. And then with your unit tests, you can take the unit test, but if you fail, you have to go back through and you have to take diligent notes, and you have to prove to the teacher that you took said notes. And then once you do that, then you'll be allowed to go back and do the unit tests. And cumulatives are the same way. It'll restart you to like certain points to where if you fail the cumulative, it'll take you back to the part where you failed.
But what if I failed it? What if I failed it 4 times in a row?
He wouldn't know.
Is there a limit? What I'm asking.
I'm assuming, but I should ask someone else, that there's humans involved in this. It's not just kids sitting.
Yeah.
Right, so there's always a teacher that you.
So is there a limit though? How many times I can fail? Is there a limit?
A limit to
How many times I can retake the test? I keep making it.
in Ingenuity. Once you get to your 3rd attempt, you actually have to request permission to keep going, because at that point it will lock the student out of the system and kind of force a stop so that they go back and actually study the material before moving forward. So yes.
Thank you so much. So happy to hear the report too.
Are all your classes Edgenuity, or are you sitting in a regular classroom with other students for some of your courses and online for others?
I have 2 online classes and 2 that are hands-on learning.
That's the way we have to say it. The old people, we have to start learning how to say hands-on learning. So when you do your Edgenuity versus your hands-on classes, do you feel any difference? I mean, like, I'm not sure I could take a class on a computer. I'd like to be in a classroom, but for you guys, does that work well for y'all?
I feel like the Edgenuity class work better for me because I can focus on my own work, and you can go at your own pace. They allow you to go ahead of pace, or it's up to you whether you stay behind.
Okay.
But
And you're doing this during your regular school day, so you don't have to stay late or come back at another time. This is just part of the school day?
yes, ma'am.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for you all being here, and thanks for the teachers and the principals who are making this happen. This is great. Do you, and I know Dr. Brasini for a long time, he's a fantastic teacher, so I think that give him some of that credit. You guys are lucky. Are we going to expand what we're offering on distance learning so we can offer more than
Just AP Human Geography?
Yeah.
That's our desire. We had hoped to be able to offer 2 this year, but we got started with the AP Human Geography a little bit earlier than anticipated. But yes, our desire is to move forward. We've had some conversation with Dr. Renzini about what would be the next course, the best next course to offer. So yes, and that was something that we actually put into our budget to expand for the upcoming school year.
Can I ask one more question? Yes, you may. So one thing I've just heard from people is that sometimes that virtual SC has a waiting list, so their students can't take that. So are we able to accommodate our students through the CCSD virtual franchise?
Yes, that's how we came with the 5 courses that we're currently offering. Once we hit the second semester, we had quite a wait list, especially for medical term, and so that was one course that we immediately launched through our franchise and hired from within.
Great, great, exciting.
Thank you.
So-
Thank you for bringing
Yeah.
students too. I think that makes a big difference.
Yeah.
to this thing.
But I have a question. You said they had to apply through SC Virtual first. Is that some sort of state reg that by virtue of not getting into that, that's when you can trigger the CCSD virtual learning? Or do we see a chance where students can just simply start virtual learning through CCSD?
We encourage them to go through virtual SC first because it's free. There's no cost to us as a district. And currently, as a franchise, in year 1, it's free. But following this year as a franchise, it will be $100 per student per seat. So it is our desire to grow our virtual franchise. But before we can do that, that would require us to build out our own courses. So that we could push out where we would not have to use virtual SC's curriculum.
And that's the $100 charge.
Yes,
Create
ma'am.
your own curriculum. We can do this technologically ourselves.
Ourselves.
Are these numbers, the numbers of students enrolled? We have a current program enrollment, so you have 11 enrolled in distance learning in 18-19, the 879 in Edgenuity, and 698 in virtual SC?
Yes, ma'am. The only difference is distance learning. As Swarkina mentioned, we had a slight drop at St. John's, so we're now at 9 for distance learning. And since launching our franchise, we're currently serving 39 students.
And how many schools are being affected by? I realize the distance learning is happening in these 2, but for your online Edgenuity and for your virtual SC, how many high schools do we have students taking these classes in?
I would say all of them are participating, and even with School of the Arts, they're a part of the franchise. Several students are taking the IBA courses from there.
Thank you.
We do have our principals here. I did not want to leave without offering them an opportunity to share. We have Mr. Carrick here with us and Ms. Brown.
Very good.
I would just add, our slice, like Quan covered it pretty well, but we provide 4 different labs at Stall High School where we allow students to take them just like a regular class within their block scheduling day. What we've tried to offer is some voice and choice for students in the manner that they deliver their instruction. Some students may take a course virtually on Edgenuity and maybe not care for it so much and they elected to take it that way. They can choose to take it a different way. Some students like Taekwondo like it and want to take more classes virtually, particularly for students that get behind in credits. It is a workaround to that seat time requirement because when they finish the course, some students will begin another course. So like he said, some of my students work nights and weekends to try to complete a course so that within one block of time, they maybe get 2 classes completed, in which time-wise you'd only get 1 class completed, but they're working nights and weekends in that kind of unlimited virtual personalized pathway. So some students that are quite honestly struggling in the traditional setting get really motivated. So I've seen a lot of students self-esteem and self-efficacy really increase when they feel like Taekwon felt, where he could take control of his education and work at the pace and the rate that he wanted, and graduation becomes a very real possibility and an exciting possibility. And when that starts to happen, the momentum really rolls for those students to complete high school. So thank you for sharing, Taekwon. Appreciate it.
And so for us at Baptist Hill, both of these programs are extremely important because of the way that we're funded. I only have a limited number of teachers that I can hire for the high school, and students often come and say, well, Ms. Brown, like, why do we only have, these courses in U.S. history? I only have 2 history teachers. And so because the 11th graders have to have U.S. history, I've got to have a teacher that teaches that. Because the students have to have econ and government as seniors, I have to have a teacher that's teaching that. So that only leaves like one section that I can offer another course. And so to make sure that the majority of students get the opportunity to take that elective credit, I offer geography or world history. But then that doesn't give students like Breon the opportunity to take an AP course. So both the Edgenuity lab and the distance learning has provided us the opportunity to offer those students the opportunity to take courses that they are interested in, and not just limit to, you have to have this for graduation, so these are the only options. And so I'm grateful to Dr. Brasini. He has just really turned on the light bulb for these young people as 9th grade students. And I want to thank Robin and the ladies for this in CCSD Online for starting this initiative. It's been very powerful for my kids.
So I think the board has talked a lot about we're going to have to be creative and be 21st century about how education is delivered. And clearly, when we say those, what we mean is online learning, distance learning, except telemed, now telelearning. As this expands, particularly for principals, you've got students sitting in a classroom, you've got students being virtually learning, you've got students who are self-paced in Edgenuity who may be ahead of the curriculum course. Can we roll this out and expand it the way I think it will with Fidelity, and not overwhelm the school trying to keep up with where everybody is? I mean, I don't want to get to a tipping point where it becomes a negative, because I can see this being huge.
So to answer that question a little bit, I guess it's important for you all to know that it goes through the guidance process. And so these students they have to have a conversation with the guidance counselor, their transcript is reviewed, and the guidance counselor determines what's the best course for them as part of their individual graduation plan. So that, I guess I want to say that that oversight is still through guidance. So I don't think that would be an issue.
I'd like to quadruple this in your school. Can you handle that?
Yes, ma'am.
That's where we're headed. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We just wanted to, before we leave, just personally thank, I wanted to personally thank a few people. I want to thank the board. Thank you for supporting us and implementing this year, Dr. Postaway. I wanted to thank Robin Jones and Laney Berry, because they really began the process by writing this distance learning opportunity into the Title IV grant. Also want to thank Dr. Epplesheimer for allowing us to utilize Dr. Brenzini in our program, and thank you to Mr. Carrick, Mr. Larson, and Ms. Brown. They've been very supportive of Ms. Bearden and myself. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Thank y'all for coming. Thank you so much. Good luck.
Thank you.
I don't think luck has a lot to do with it.
So the next piece is mathematics strategic actions and next steps.
I'm going to ask the math. Come on up.
This is grant funding. How do we say So it is a pretty sustainable set of funds.
I know.
Yes, sir. How about you?
Grab a chair. Okay. No, I got it. No, sure, please. Sure. It's gonna be like a lot going on. So last month, we talked about literacy. And so today, we wanted to talk a little bit about math. We are looking at addressing math a little differently than we're addressing our literacy needs. So for math, we see that the big move for us is changing the actual curriculum. That there are real deficits. The data tells us it's not pockets of implementation. This is not pockets. This is whole scale needing something different.
Yes, I agree.
So we have already started some moves in that direction with the Bridges math curriculum in the elementary schools. And then at the middle school, we have several classrooms who are using illustrative math as a math curriculum. So we have several. I have two folks I'd like to introduce. Actually, I have three because I think Marion's down there too. Yeah.
So we have Audra Pinckney is the school-based instructional coach at St. James Santee, where they're using Bridges. And Colleen Knauer and Marion Pond are at Northwoods Middle, where they are using illustrative math. So I thought we would give them a chance to talk about what they're seeing at the school level and their thoughts about how this is impacting student achievement, even though we're still waiting on the winter map data, all that analysis to be done, but they have on-the-ground information. So I'll give you guys a chance.
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, I think at the St. James Santee, the elementary level, Bridges has really been very informative for not only the students but teachers. It really gives us that conceptual understanding and really supports teachers in teaching what children really need. It's really rich in communication. It really supports the literacy. It goes hand in hand with the literacy and really allows children become risk takers when it comes down to math. I really think that Bridges is going to really make a difference. It's standards. It's going to give us what we need when it comes down to teaching our students in this type of environment where we're really trying to give children more than just the 2 + 2. It's really going to lead to a richer, lifelong learning for children. Children go beyond just rote memorization. Children become lifelong learners. They develop that love for the language of math. Bridges also offer precise language that's going to support children, not only and give them the foundation that they need to be successful later on, but it also gives them that confidence that they need in math and numeracy.
And is this a curriculum or a style of teaching a curriculum?
I would say it's a curriculum, but the great thing about Bridges is that it embeds the style of teaching and really makes it a powerful learning opportunity for students.
To help support that as well, so I think we've talked about this before. So we're also having training for elementary school teachers in OGAP, the ongoing assessment project, which is this is a change in the way they teach. This is different than just you do these steps, you come up with an answer. And so alongside the curriculum work is the instructional practices, and OGAP is giving teachers some of those tools to make this shift as well. We're also next year going to expand all of our elementary schools using the Bridges materials in our intervention. So that it complements what's going on in the core.
Do you foresee a time when Bridges is system-wide in the elementary school?
Yes, we have a timeline to do that, exactly. And we're hoping that the state comes up with the math adoption soon so that it's all not paid for locally by us. We just couldn't wait. We couldn't wait for the adoption cycle to come back around. It was going to be too long. So we do hope that they'll put that on the fast track.
If they put that in the curriculum, we don't have to pay for it.
Correct, exactly.
If they don't, we're buying this.
Exactly.
The great thing about the Bridges also is it really, the deficit, the small group, it has problem based, it has spiral review, everything packed right there in one program.
Thank you. It's awesome.
So at the middle school, again, we're moving to illustrative math.
Can you on the Bridges math for the K through 5? That's the elementary kids, what type of math are we teaching for the illustrative method? Illustrative method, what type of math are the kids learning?
That's middle school, so we're gonna talk about that.
Well, I meant right here, what it says, K through 5.
K through 5 is
What are the
Bridges.
elementary kids learning?
Oh, that's Bridges.
That's
The
Bridges.
Bridges.
And then middle school is illustrative math.
Okay, so, okay, so it says that right here also.
Bridges is elementary.
It says 12 new, it says 12, okay, my middle, I see. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I want to.
So I thought Dr. Knauer and Marion could talk a little bit about.
This mixture, so the elementary kids, they don't get exposed to the algebra.
Right here.
In middle school? I
No,
mean, in
the elementary kids, like 5th grade, do they ever get exposed to algebra?
There's strands
some
of the
of the
mathematics
through the
curriculum for
Bridges
elementary
math.
that cover.
I mean, are we doing it, though? I mean, are we doing it? Yeah.
Through the program, Bridges, the units will expose them with the standards, yes.
So based on who's ready for that
Yes.
content, Reverend Collins, they would be exposed to algebra.
And the reason for my question is that a lot of children are devastated by math and don't do well in math, and the way I see this, that the sooner they're exposed to it, whether they master it or not, but the sooner they're exposed to it, the better opportunity they'll have to master it and faster down the road when they are doing it on a regular basis.
And I would make a plug for the OGAP. I think OGAP and Bridges go hand in hand, and along with the OGAP continuum, teachers are going to be more and more ready to expose children that are ready, and they're going to know when to expose those children that are ready to algebra. Because there's a continuum with the OGAP and the Bridges that really align teachers with the assessment that they need to give children that exposure.
All right, so Dr. Knauer and Ms. Pond, how about talking a little bit about illustrative at the middle schools?
Thank you for having us here. As someone who has a background in math, actually both of us, when it was brought to us for illustrative math, I didn't know what we were getting into, but she was the guru in the building. She got trained first, and then we trained the teachers, and we only picked 8th grade. We wanted to see if it was going to work, so we only rolled it out in 1 grade. And when we saw, I'm a data person, so I'm going to give you numbers in a second, but when we saw what it was doing for our 8th grade, we had some money and we bought it for 7th grade, 2nd semester, and my hope is to get it for the whole school. So at the end of last year on MAP, the percent of 8th graders that met their goal was 45%. And we're only, this is from winter and our numbers crunched because district, they're working on crunching the numbers, but internally, we're already at 57% met their goal. And that's just for 1 semester of having it.
What grade?
8th grade. So that's really the only thing we changed besides our intervention period. So that shows you that the program is working because 8th grade had a huge jump.
So with the math data, it shows growth. So
Last
that's the way they
year,
work.
yeah, last year in the spring, if you take 7th grade to 8th grade, those same kids, it's a bigger growth. But if you just look at the 8th grade curriculum data, last year we ended the year with 45% meeting their goals in the spring. We're in the winter right now, and we hit 57% meeting their goal.
Do those kids that get C ready also?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
How they doing that?
They haven't taken it yet, yeah.
We'll find out till November.
Okay.
Mhm.
What's the target goal?
For the whole school? I mean, ideally 100, but 60. The goal we set as a school would be we would want every 60%. But the nice thing is the percent of 8th graders that had no loss. So they did not go backwards, and that's taking into account number of absences and things like that. We were at 74% of 8th graders this first semester to winter MAP that had no loss whatsoever. So I think the numbers for us speak for itself, and that's really what we're using, and that's why the teachers are sort of jumping on board and getting with it. It's all self-discovery and hands-on. The teacher only has a small part at the beginning of the lesson, and the rest is them exploring. And as a former math teacher, it's very easy to go up there and just work through problems with students. Here, it's all self-discovery, and they're given the tools, and then they have to figure out how to solve.
And do your kids use Algebra Nation?
Algebra 1 does.
Okay.
So that's only 1 class in the whole school.
So if you're taking Algebra 1, you would be a student that uses Algebra Nation
Yes.
as a resource, but if you're taking this math, it's okay. I understand, thank you.
So only 32 kids in our school take Algebra 1, So that's the algebra nation. Everyone else in the 8th grade uses illustrative.
That's fantastic.
And and other schools have been coming to us to look at the illustrative and see, you just walk in and there's a completely different feel to math. The kids are engaged. They like math class. There's less behavior problems in math class now.
And
So-
you have this in 7th and 8th grade?
Now we have it in 7th and 8th.
Fantastic.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. So are we, because Colleen said that she's had other schools come, so are we doing this across the board, or are we piloting it some schools? Or did I miss that?
Piloting it in a couple schools now
Okay.
and looking to go full school in 6 middle schools next year.
Okay.
So what schools have it now?
Lang, Northwoods.
Okay.
Lang and Northwoods are primarily the places that we have.
And there's some teachers at Deer Park that
Yep.
they were using it because they knew it was the right thing to do, but they've just gotten on board with the whole training piece. So and it's the 8th grade teachers, the math teachers at Deer Park.
Mostly in 8th grade.
So let me ask one more question. The kids that are really struggling in math, I'm not saying these kids here aren't struggling. They're probably are also, but what about the kids that are really struggling? Do they have to wait another year before we get to those kids? The more schools in North Charleston?
Could you,
What about Morningside?
I'm going to talk about the intervention work Lisa's doing.
Are you
What I'm asking, when does this program get to the other schools? I know you're piloting right now. Do we have to wait a year or two to get to the other schools? For the kids that are struggling in math now today, when do we get to those kids?
So Morningside is one of those schools being considered to be one of the 6 middle schools for next year.
It's being considered for next year.
We have
So there's a teacher training piece and there's a funding piece to this, both. Yes, because this is not supported by, it's not a state math, there's no math adoption again, this is.
I know what Reverend Collins is asking. It doesn't matter with the level of the kids. It's teaching kids how to think conceptually when it comes to math, instead of thinking like, you just solve a problem by multiplying, 2 times 3, So that's the whole premise of the program. So it doesn't matter where the kids are, where they are, the program will work for those kids.
I'm just saying, when will it get to them so it can work? That's what I'm asking.
I'll piggyback on that and say, Northwoods hasn't had the best track record with reading or math. And when you look at the 6th graders last year, only 20% of those 6th graders met their math goals, 20%. And now you look at the 7th graders, and the 7th graders are sitting at 45%. So those same kids moving up. So it works for all students across the board. It may take a little bit longer to get used to it, because it is a change. It's a change in teaching, a change in learning, but it makes significant growth.
And so you're wanting to roll this to 6 middle schools. How many middle schools do we have?
13.
Because I think what Reverend Collins is really asking is, if this is great, then why don't we give it to all kids? So I think the answer is we're having to pay for it. We had to first see if it was going to work, and then we have to find a way to fund it. And then I think you said there's a teacher training piece, because this is not the same way you teach. Just like at elementary, this is not the same style of teaching.
And so we're talking thousands of dollars, or hundreds of thousands, or millions? What are you speaking roughly?
Hundreds of thousands of dollars.
We got that, honey, we got that. That's no problem.
Yeah, I just wanted to know the cost factor, that's all. But when we will find out the cost factor to this?
It'll be in the budget package that's brought forward
Okay.
for you all to consider. It's part of it's a new initiative because it's not currently something that we're doing.
We mainly wanted to update you on, we see curriculum as the most critical thing we can do in terms of access and equity. That if you have a solid core curriculum, it prevents students from falling behind, and it can intervene when they are a little behind.
So you would do this in the most critical needs schools though, right?
Our vision is we would move this, we'd start there, but our vision is that we would see this in all of our middle schools. This is our change to what is taught that meets the standards.
Okay. Thank you.
Any more questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you all. That's the end of the-
Thank you.
Next item up is Ms. Green.
So we're not talking about the high school math intervention services or coaches?
Well, we have
Okay.
all that information in your folder
Okay.
for you to look at.
Okay, that's fine.
Did you have a question?
No.
Okay.
Take a bathroom break. What's a bathroom break?
Take a quick bathroom break.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right,